Hey guys, by now you may have seen the headlines talking about the impacts to SNAP benefits in November from the government shutdown. I saw some of those headlines today myself, and while I had hoped that they were not accurate, it turns out there is a lot more truth to them than we would like. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of these headlines are not actually clickbait. The USDA has warned that if the government doesn't reopen soon, millions of Americans may not see their November food benefits. And I know how absolutely catastrophic that could be for so many of you. And I hate bringing you guys bad news like this. Um, Ultimately, from the digging that I was able to do today, um, the reports that I'm seeing, the letter came straight from the USDA, and they sent this letter out to the state organizations that are in charge of dispersing those food benefits. And what they said in this letter that was dated October 10th is that there is insufficient funds for the SNAP program going into the month of November if the government shutdown does not resolve by then. And that's unimaginable to me, honestly. Around 42 million people around the country depend on SNAP to feed their families. That's nearly 1 in 8 Americans who relies on these benefits for food, including families, seniors, veterans, children, and so on. And like I said, this issue is a direct result of the ongoing government shutdown that began October 1st. So the shutdown was triggered because Congress failed to pass a new budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And when that happens, so called non essential agencies have to close, and essential programs are left to run on leftover funds until they run out. SNAP, which is federally funded through the USDA's Food and Nutrition Service, is one of those programs that relies on that appropriation spending that Congress was supposed to authorize but didn't. So at this point, this reads to me like a threat, like they're trying to get the other parties back to the negotiating table to solve this thing. Because if they do manage to reopen the government in time, this should not be an issue, at least not as significant of an issue. But the letter that they sent said, quote, if the current lapse in appropriations continues, there will be insufficient funds to pay full November SNAP benefits for approximately 42 million people across the nation. Now, when I first read that, I thought, okay, well, maybe they'll send a partial payment. But that looks like it's not going to be the case because they also told states to stop sending their November benefit data to their EBT vendors, quote, until further notice, end quote, which means it doesn't look like there's any option for a partial payment here because states have been told to not send that data to the vendors that distribute that money. So, I can look and see if there's any state-specific changes on that, but it does look like they are just saying it won't come. Um, the letter also said, considering the operational issues and constraints that exist in automated systems, and in the interest of preserving maximum flexibility, we are forced to direct states to hold their November issuance files and delay transmission to EBT vendors, which is, like I said, just a fancy way of saying not to send that information. The USDA claims that this is only a pause in payments until additional funding becomes available, but we still have no idea what timeline that would be. As far as I can tell, there's not really not really a lot of progress being made on that shutdown, and that's really, really concerning. Now, these letters were hard to find because with the government shutdown, they are not updating most government websites. So, this information was pulled from a variety of sources who said that they obtained the letter from various state agencies who forwarded it to news outlets. The letter was apparently signed by someone at the USDA. Now, the Food Action and Research Center said if USDA fails to instruct states to transmit the necessary files on time, November benefits could be delayed or interrupted entirely. And I know from the work that I did in bringing you the updates during the pandemic when we were looking at the different schedules for the emergency allotments and things, states just handle SNAP in radically different ways. The timelines can just be wildly different depending on where you are. For example, some states, I don't know if they still do this because I haven't looked recently, but back then, some states were issuing payments like 1 month behind, so you would get September's payment in October and so on, and if they're still doing that, then there's a chance that some states might see a payment made in November, but then it would be October's payment. I'll instruct the team to do some research and see if we can get some additional information on how that might be working in some areas. But basically, what the Food Action and Research Center is saying is even if, so let's say they make an 11th hour deal right before November, right? There could still be a delay because of the time that it takes for them to transmit the data to the vendor to process the payments, and so on and so forth. So the more days go by, the more likely there is that there will at the very least be a delay, if not a miss of those benefits. Um, which is just awful. Okay, I hate bringing you guys bad news. Yeah, so I'm just going to skim over this slide here. So like I said, SNAP is what's considered a mandatory entitlement. So if you qualify, you're supposed to get those benefits, but that doesn't mean they're automatically funded, which is why the shutdown is affecting this. Without a new funding deal, those agencies can't legally spend the money, even on essential programs like food aid. And that's the line that we're seeing a lot. But I do remember in the last government shutdown in early 2019, they did make a concession and there was a loophole that they used to send the SNAP payments early. And it doesn't look like that is something that's even on the table or being considered in any way here. I don't know exactly why that is, why they were able to do it last time, but not this time. But that's apparently how it's going. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I can see the chat blowing up, and I want so badly to jump in there and talk to you guys, but I want to get through the slides first because I imagine you're not any happier about this news than I am. So if you are currently receiving SNAP and you have not received your payment for October, I want you to know that your October benefits are going to be okay. They had the funding for the month of October. So even if you're one of those people who doesn't get your SNAP benefits until after the 20th of the month, you will still get those for the month of October. It is the month of November that they are unsure about. So that at least should hopefully be some comfort to some of you, hopefully. I do know that the timing of this is terrible. November means we're going into the Thanksgiving holiday. This is one of the more expensive seasons of the year, and a lot of states are said that they're going to be assembling resource lists of food banks and different things that they can point people to if the SNAP benefits are missed. But food banks are already sounding the alarm because they have been strained for a long time. So if you have not yet received your SNAP benefits, or if you still have a SNAP balance, I would encourage you to shop smart and look for things that maybe you can stretch out longer. I know that's hard to do because I know SNAP is never enough to get by on. Yeah, so like I said, each state is handling this a little differently. North Carolina's Department of Health and Human Services said that they are working to get a better understanding of exactly what this means, which I appreciate. A lot of the outlets I saw that were reporting on this had received a copy of the letter from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, which I really appreciate because I could not find this letter on the USDA website anywhere. But again, they're not updating the government websites at the federal level because of the shutdown. So Texas Health and Human Services said that everyone should just expect delays or changes in their November benefits, which makes sense if you think about it, right? Because like I said, if they miss those deadlines, it could be pushed back, hopefully not very far, but we just don't know. There's so much of this that we don't know until it happens, and that uncertainty can be so unnerving. And I am so sorry that a lot of this has not as much concrete data as I would have liked to bring you. So if you were just approved in the month of October, you should be able to get those October benefits, but November's funds probably will not come through on time, it seems. In Colorado, they're already giving guidance about what people should expect. Um, and they're saying basically that if you apply between now and the end of October, you can still get October's benefits, but you won't get anything further until this is resolved. And oh, crap, I forgot this isn't the last of the bad news. So there's more. You might remember the new work requirements and other things that were part of the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The USDA gave states 120 days to comply with the terms of that bill, and that deadline is also November 1st, which is the same week that they're saying that SNAP funds could run out. So at that point, if your state has not already enacted a lot of these things, that's when you're going to see the work requirements kick in. So now able-bodied adults up to age 65 must work or train at least 80 hours a month to keep their benefits. And parents with dependents under 18 used to be exempt, but now that cutoff is dropped to 14 years old for the age of those dependents. Oregon is warning that refugees, those who have been granted asylum, and human trafficking survivors may be affected and lose benefits. And the exemptions for veterans, people experiencing homeless, and young adults who are aging out of foster care will also be removed. So if you are an able-bodied adult without dependents, you will need to show proof of work or training to be able to keep those benefits. Otherwise, you'll be limited to no more than 3 months every 3 years in the SNAP program. So those changes are also hitting at the same time. So this really just looks like a perfect storm. You know, the funding is frozen, the new rules are kicking in. It's not great. But I wanted to bring this information to you as soon as possible because I know a lot of times when things go wrong or there's an interruption, people think that they were cut off and they don't know what's going on. So I wanted you to be prepared. I realize that when you're living on a low income, preparation is almost impossible, right? I know there's not a lot that you can do. And I hope that there are things that you can do. Right? So like I said, if you still have funds on your EBT card, try to use those benefits wisely. Look for shelf-stable foods that you can stretch out over a long period of time. Make sure to check your EBT balance before shopping as we go into November to make sure that your deposit actually did come through. I will certainly be updating you on this channel about any changes to the schedule or, hopefully when the government reopens or anything as this moves on, we'll be updating here. We're now doing videos almost every single day. We're here 6 days a week, every day but Sunday. So you can subscribe to this channel. You can also make sure that you're signed up for alerts from your state's SNAP office because sometimes there is state-by-state variances. If you are getting text or email alerts from your state's SNAP office, that's a great way to stay informed. Save every piece of paperwork you receive and try to be proactive now, right? Look for your local food banks, the churches, the groups that will be able to help you because a lot of people, no matter how hard we try to get the word out about this, a lot of people won't know until it's too late. And that's when all of those resources are just going to get very, very flooded. So we know that November is already a high demand time for food banks because of the holiday season. It's important to make sure that you're connected with those resources as soon as possible so that you're able to get the help that you need when you need it. Now, eventually this shutdown has got to end, right? And when that happens, the SNAP payments should resume quickly. I would assume there would be retroactive payments, but we seem to be living in an era where nothing is quite as certain as it should be. So I can't promise you that, but that is what I would expect to have happen. And like I said, it's going to depend on the timing of all of this because even if they do reopen before November starts, if it's too late, there will have been delays in the processing and it still may create delays. As soon as I get any sort of concrete timeline, I will be back on here on a video for you with more information. And do be careful to what you're listening to. We have noticed a huge uptick in the number of emails and comments we're receiving about scams right now. Stephanie and I are talking every day because we're just getting so many questions about different things that are turning out to be scams. We do know there's been a huge increase of AI channels and news outlets that are just churning information that isn't accurate. So if you ever have a question about whether or not something is true, please leave a comment here on the channel. You can also email us at team@lowincomerelief.com, and we're happy to look into anything for you. We really want to help you guys stay safe out there because I know it's harder than ever to know what is actually going on. And then, of course, our sponsor, Free Cash, is a great way to earn a little bit of extra money. I know it's probably not going to be sufficient to replace your SNAP benefits. Their website's pretty cool. It'll show you how much the average earnings were in the prior day. I think it's like around $38 or something like that. But that's an option if you're looking for a way just to make a little bit of extra money to help tide you over during this time. I'm going to go ahead and jump in the chat now and see if I can catch up with what you guys have been talking about. I've been thrilled to see you guys chatting on here. So, okay. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so Eric is asking, where's that $5,000 stimulus payment? So we've heard a lot of talk about different stimulus things over the last couple of years, but none of them have been finalized. It would take an act of Congress to issue that kind of money. The only one I saw pitched that was going to be $5,000 was the Doge dividend, and that was a proposal that somebody made that no action has been taken on. If you go watch our video about that proposal, they were planning to cut low-income people out of it. It was only for active taxpayers, and it was going to take multiple years before those were sent. That being said, no action has been taken on it, so I don't expect that to be a thing. We also saw some passing comments recently about possible tariff rebate stimulus checks that would be worth up to $2,000. But again, that was just a comment made in an interview, and no formal action has been taken to make that happen either. So if another stimulus check thing becomes a real possibility, I will definitely be telling you about it, and we'll do our best to keep up on the scam news as well. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so let's see what else we got in here. Oh, thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate you. Comments like this help keep us going. I hate bringing you guys bad news, but anyway, thank you for that comment. Let's see. Okay, so Mama Lioness is pointing out that her rent went up, gas bill doubled, and she reported the changes, and the SNAP went up significantly. This is super important. A lot of people miss this, but your SNAP amount is determined by your adjusted income after deductions, and your deductions can include things like housing and utility costs and so on. It's very important to report those changes so that you're getting the accurate amount because it can make a huge difference. All right. Lots of people are asking about SSI. If you're asking about just straight SSI payments, those should continue as scheduled. Social Security payments should not be affected by the shutdown. SNAP is funded very differently. So hopefully, I don't know, hopefully that helps. If you get SSI, you should continue getting SSI. It's SNAP that's far less certain. Okay, I'm trying to find more questions in here. I know you all have a lot of opinions about what's going on, and I can't blame you in the slightest because, I mean, this is really, really hard. So, okay, so it sounds like some of you are saying you've received news that certain states will continue funding SNAP. So we'll get the team on that. We'll dig in and we'll see what's going on where so that we can bring you that more comprehensive information. At this point, the information that we presented here today came from the federal USDA. But like I explained earlier, some states have delays in how they issue those benefits. So they may be even as much as a month behind, and then they might be able to, I don't know. It's a very complicated thing. I'll try to get that state by state guidance out on the website as soon as I can. Because I know going over 50 different things here in a video gets a little overwhelming, I think, both for me and for you guys. So, all right, Babu says the 1-800 number for EBT doesn't work. It hangs up now. I haven't tried that number myself, but I do know that part of the government shutdown is a huge impact on customer service lines. and things like that. So that might be one reason why that number isn't working. If you contact your state government office that's in charge of those benefits, you should be able to reach somebody, just because the state governments shouldn't be as impacted by the federal shutdown. But that might take some digging to get that local number. I know sometimes they aren't very easy to find. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. Dizzy is saying, are disabled people exempt from the work requirements? And the answer is yes. The caveat to the work requirements is that you're supposed to be able-bodied adult without dependents. If you are on some form of formal disability, it should be fairly easy to prove that you should be exempt from that. If you don't receive any form of disability benefits, I would make sure that you have really good documentation from a doctor or a provider that can explain what your issues are and how they would impact your ability to work, because those letters will be very important in helping you to maintain those benefits. Yeah, so those of you who are asking if your states are impacted, this is federal news from the USDA. It should be applying nationwide, but there are some state-specific things that might influence some of the details, and we'll get an article out about that. But so far, the USDA, the federal government, is telling the states not to move forward with that November disbursement until further notice. So, yeah. All right. It's me, Angie says, if you already got your food stamps for October, can they take them back? No. So they had enough funding for October. Everybody should be getting their October payments. If you haven't got them yet for October, they should still be coming to you. It is the payments that are due for the month of November that are in question. So hopefully that can give you at least a little bit of peace of mind. Ooh, this is a great tip from Francine. She says, rice, beans, lentils, spices, bread is $1.50 at Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is a great place to go for some things. In some cases, it can cost a little bit more. My favorite place to shop is Winco, but I know that's kind of a Western States store. They usually have really great deals. Grocery Outlet is a place that I like to go because they often have really great deals. We have a list on our website of what's called salvage stores. And those are stores that buy things that other retailers are basically offloading. So like scratch and dent products, things that are slightly out of season. Usually the food isn't even like expired or anything. It's just, ugly produce or whatever your mainstream grocer may not want to carry. They sell it to these salvage stores, and then the salvage stores can sell it to you at a great discount. And a lot of them take EBT benefits. So we have a list of, I think, like 460 salvage stores or something like that on our website. And they can be a great resource also for helping to stretch those benefits a little bit farther as we move into this period of uncertainty here. So might be something to consider. Let's see. I really appreciate all of you guys. You guys are so nice here in the comments. I really stressed about bringing this news to you because I really just do not like bringing you guys this kind of bad news, but I appreciate that you guys are being so nice in here. Let's see. Michelle says, who's going to hire a 64-year-old? That is, I had a great conversation with somebody the other day. I ran into somebody in town who recognized me from the channel, and we were talking about the role of ageism in the workplace because it is a very serious issue. And a lot of people who, I was reading a study recently, and a lot of people who lose their jobs after the age of 60 don't get hired again. And so a lot of them turn to Social Security retirement early because of that. And I know that comes with permanent cuts too. And that's just no good options there. There are the good news, I guess, going back to Michelle's comment here, the good news is that it doesn't have to be strictly work to meet the work requirements. You can also volunteer. You can participate in some sort of continuing education. There are other ways to meet those requirements other than strictly work. Personally, I would recommend going the volunteering route because if you're going back to college, then you're talking about things like student loans, and that can get really messy. But you might want to look into opportunities to volunteer near you because then you can still meet those hour requirements and keep your benefits. So good. All right. Kevin says, will I get my SNAP in 5 days? So right now it's October 16th. So 5 days still puts you in October for the month of October benefits. You should be completely fine. It's the payment that you would get toward mid to end of November where you would be having a problem, most likely. And again, if and when the government reopens, they'll restart that. There might be delays, but hopefully they'll get that going before too much longer. Okay, so a lot of you are asking about HUD and Section 8. I don't have that news yet. I will dig in and look at that as soon as we're off of here so I can get that information for you. I tend to spend a lot of time fact checking and verifying things, so I'm not going to make you guys watch me do that here on the video. It'd get really boring. But I can hop on in the next couple of days and give you guys that information as well. I just don't have the information to answer that confidently right now. So, yeah, Double C is saying Thanksgiving is just a month and a half away, and you're not wrong. Every year we do a roundup of the organizations that are offering free Thanksgiving dinners. And I know that's one meal in a whole month, so that's not a lot of comfort. But we will be getting that list out to you if you need a place where you can get a Thanksgiving meal, either to eat in your own home or to eat in town. Sometimes even restaurants do that, which I always think is really sweet when they open the restaurant for a free Thanksgiving meal. There's a lot of places that do that. Hopefully we'll see companies maybe like Ibotta doing the promotions that they usually do as well. But I won't have that information until we get closer to the holiday because they usually don't announce that until usually sometime around November 1st. But definitely subscribe. Keep an eye out for that information because that is something that we'll be bringing for you. Okay, so King of Kong is talking about issues with EBT processing. So ironically, before I saw the breaking news here today, our video today was actually going to be about the issues that people are having with their EBT in stores, because for some reason, a lot of people are seeing errors when they go in and they try to spend those benefits, whether it's technical issues or things like that. We do know that some states have had issues where it goes down for maintenance every once in a while. And then there's been just different like software and technical things. So if you used it for grocery delivery and then a few days later had a problem at the grocery store, I would imagine that that's probably a technical issue, especially if your balance is okay. Maybe try it again. I don't work with the state, so I can't give you like solid troubleshooting tips there, but I think it would probably be an issue with the store or with the EBT system itself, because there seems to be a lot of issues with that lately. Let's see. All right, Kimberly is saying that they stopped benefits without notice. I've heard some reports that that's happening as well. I would love it if you could email us some additional information about what you experienced. I'm trying to kind of gather those stories to see what we can figure out about what's going on here. We did receive a comment from someone. Stephanie forwarded it to me just this morning about someone whose benefits were just abruptly cut off. And then they called the state office and they talked to somebody and they're like, oh, yeah, we have no idea why that was. Here, we'll just put it back for you. And then it was fine. That's very anecdotal. I don't have any concrete information on why that would be, but I am hearing that story from a lot of different people right now. So, Kimberly, I would recommend that you reach out to your state and just ask them what's going on, and if they know why it was stopped and if it was a mistake, and they may be able to restore that for you just based on what I'm hearing from other people right now. So, yeah, it might be something to try. So Sherry is asking, what is going on with WIC? And that is a very good question, because we were told that WIC was likely to run out of funding during the shutdown. And from what I understand, they were able to fund it through the month of October. I am unclear on whether or not it is going to be funded through the month of November, but given what they're saying about SNAP benefits, I do not necessarily think that that would be likely. I will continue looking for that news, and if I find out that it is available, I will hop on here and tell you. But just doing a quick search here, it looks like some sources are saying that WIC is also not going to be funded. So I'll follow up with you as I learn more about that. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on the chat. I always feel bad when you guys are just watching me read. Let's see. Yeah, so it's me, Angie, is saying, do we know anything about December yet? We're not going to know anything about December until we get substantially closer. This is all because the government shutdown is still ongoing. I really, really hope it is still not an issue, that it's not still an issue by the time we approach December, because that will mean that a lot of things, that would mean a lot of things. Hopefully, I mean, the longest government shutdown on record was 35 days, which would put us into November just a bit. Hopefully we aren't going to be setting any new records this year. I I saw a meme the other day that said that I'm or something about I really miss living in very precedented times, and I feel that I am very, very tired of living in times where we're always setting records on things. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people talking about having issues using their EBT with Amazon for different things. Most often when benefits disappeared due to theft, in my experience, that's usually due to swiping your card at a terminal instead of actually having like an Amazon hack. Um, they've gotten really good at putting these little skimmer devices on terminals where you swipe that magnetic strip and then they copy the card number and the PIN, and they can actually clone your card and make a duplicate card and then spend your benefits forever. And that's a terrible thing. It's been happening all over the place. So, just as a general rule, for those of you who are in the chat talking about having benefits stolen or losing benefits, changing your PIN frequently can be an absolute lifesaver. So I recommend changing your PIN at least once a month, if not every time you use it, just to make sure that if someone did manage to get a hold of that information, that it's not relevant for long, and that you're able to protect your benefits. I've heard from a lot of people who have had their benefits stolen multiple months in a row, and the way that they're able to do that is by using the same PIN. So if you change your PIN, it really helps protect you from that repeated theft. So, um, just a little tip for you. Lots of people talking about the economy. I know it's a really frustrating time. Oh, hey, there you go. I like this tip from Francine. She says, volunteer at the food banks, then you have extra food as well. This is actually great advice, because you can volunteer to help meet those work requirements that will also be going into effect. And if your local food bank needs volunteers, it's a great place to be connected to. So, highly recommend that. That would be awesome. Let's see. Yes, some people are talking about getting a raise in October in their SNAP benefits, and that is true. The COLA usually goes into effect on October 1st. So you should have seen hopefully a little bit of a bump to those benefits, unless you're living in Hawaii, because Hawaii got cut a little bit again. We talked about that in our EBT COLA update earlier this month. Um, but yeah, hopefully that should explain why you got a little bit of a raise there. So let's see. Love Pug says under 75 disabled has to work now. That is not accurate. The age limit is 65. So anyone under the age of 65 will now be subject to work requirements. And if you're disabled, you should be exempt. You just need to make sure that you're providing proof of your disability to the SNAP benefits office, and then you should be okay. And if you're over the age of 65, then you don't need to worry about it at all. So. Oh, geez. Serena saying that meals for seniors has been slashed to 3 meals per week already, and that's really sad. I know there's a lot of different programs out there. In fact, if you are a senior and you're concerned about this news, I mean, obviously you're going to be concerned about this news that SNAP benefits aren't coming in November. We have other videos and articles on our website about ways that you can get free food. We've got lists for seniors, and we've also got lists just generally for everybody. I'd recommend that you go check those out. There is other support out there, but it is going to get overwhelmed. Like, food banks are already stressed out, and they have been for years. And if something does happen with SNAP, they are just going to get more drained. So it's important to make sure that you're connected with those resources as soon as possible, just to make sure that you have the best chance of getting the help that you need. That's fair. Amanda says if you only get $30 in food stamps and you spend gas and stuff and you're going to volunteer, then I mean, you've got a really good point there about, are you even going to be breaking even? And I don't know how to I don't know how to calculate that. That's something I hadn't quite considered, but that's a really good point. Let's see. Old Broad says, I get EBT on November 1st. Am I out of luck? I don't think you're out of luck yet. It depends on what state you're in and what their timelines look like. I would say you're probably one of the more likely ones to face delays just from a sheerly logistical standpoint, right? If they don't get if they don't get the approval to send the funding on time, people who normally get it November 1st are more likely to face delays than people who get it, say, on the 20th of the month, because there's just more of a buffer there. Um, Hopefully there won't be a delay. Hopefully they'll figure this out really fast. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Sorry, guys. I really don't like not having better news for you. Yes, it's me. Angie is asking about the October COLA, and yes, that raise should have happened in your October benefits. Um, all right, Cindy's saying, is the COLA news still going to be announced on 10/23? So it's actually October 24th. It's going to be on Friday, next Friday, and we will be live here talking about the Social Security COLA, because originally they said that they were not going to announce the COLA for Social Security until the government shutdown resolved. But then there was enough pushback that they decided to bring that team back, and they are intending to announce the Social Security COLA on the 24th. Now, in a way, that's kind of good news, right? Like, they said they weren't going to do the thing, and then there was pressure, and then now they're going to do the thing. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully we'll see something similar for SNAP benefits here, and hopefully there will be enough, I don't want to say backlash, but enough feedback about the importance of this program that hopefully they will reconsider their stance and get those benefits sent out the way that they should be. I think that's one of the most optimistic outcomes of this situation, because I know the states are the ones who raised awareness of the issue, and if enough people learn about this and know what's going on, maybe we can affect some sort of change, like they did with the Social Security COLA, which would be really great. Okay. Yeah, okay, so there's somebody with the name bot that is accusing me of lying here. I did pull this from multiple sources, and if you go back through the slides, you can see screenshots of some of the sources that I used in compiling this information for you today. So it is accurate, unfortunately. Let's see. Maven says, is this for all SNAP recipients? The answer is yes. This guidance came from the federal USDA. So that would be, yeah. Let's see. Ooh, this is cool. Kim says, Kansas DCF is hosting a resource and giveaway this Saturday at the DCF office in Kansas City. Lots of free stuff. So if you're in the area, definitely go check that out. That's a great resource. Thank you for sharing that, Kim. I really appreciate that. Unbox says that the local news did a segment on this, and I did pull some of my sources from the news in Houston. So that was interesting. And it looks like the EBT system was down in Pittsburgh for a few hours yesterday. So that is something I'm seeing really frequently. And it used to be that when they had scheduled maintenance, they would announce it in advance. And then they'd be like, okay, it's going to be down from this time to this time so you could prepare. It seems like it's being announced less and less, and it's just happening. And that's so frustrating, because often you don't know until you go to like buy groceries and you've already got everything in your cart. And it's just such a headache. Oh, thank you, Carrie. This is awesome. I appreciate that. So just so you guys know, I never expect any of you to sign up for our channel memberships, but I do appreciate it very much when you guys do, because it really helps support our team. But never any pressure, of course. That was awesome. Thank you. That's wonderful. This is a great question, Barbie. So Barbie's asking, will people still have to do their work requirements even though they're not receiving food stamps? I don't know. I assume that the answer is yes, because strictly speaking, like, the program still exists. It just doesn't have funding. I don't know exactly how they're going to work all that out. But we do know that those work requirements are supposed to be hitting in November at the same time. I will do some research into that and see if I can get you an answer. But with the shutdown, I don't know if the press departments are going to be as responsive to me as they usually are. But I will do my best to get that information for you. Sylvia is saying, will we lose our SNAP increase when we get the COLA increase? And that seems to happen every year, doesn't it? Like, you get the COLA, you get the SNAP increase in October, things are good, and then you get the Social Security COLA in January, and then they deduct your SNAP. Because SNAP is based on your income, it is hard to avoid that drop. However, if you are not currently using the medical expense deduction, I would strongly recommend that you look into that because basically, if you're a senior or a person with a disability, you can deduct any out of pocket medical expenses you have over $35 in a month. So it's a great way to help offset that COLA a little bit if you've got healthcare premiums or medications that you need. There's all sorts of different things that can count toward that medical expense deduction, including like food for service animals and the cost of transportation to get to your medical appointments, all sorts of stuff. We have another video on that. I'd recommend that you look into that because that's kind of the best way to help protect your SNAP from your Social Security COLA, in my experience. Okay, so Lisa's saying, if you have leftover money, would you still be able to use them if the shutdown continues? Yes. I haven't seen any indication that that would be impaired at all. That should be something that continues to work. It's just that they're saying that those new deposits wouldn't be happening. So if you're able to carry a balance, then you should still be able to use that balance. So. Oh, wow. Amanda says the local food bank, when you volunteer, you're not allowed to get food. That's really frustrating, honestly. It's kind of an interesting policy. I have questions. I believe you. I wonder why they do that. That's very interesting. Okay, so Robin is saying, I receive SSI and SSDI. I have a health insurance SNAP card that helps buy groceries. So I'm assuming that this is coming from some sort of Medicare plan. That shouldn't be affected because that would be a different system than SNAP. That being said, this is a great time to talk about our sponsor chapter. If you are on, scratch that, sorry. If you get Medicare, these guys are awesome. They have all sorts of databases. They can look at all of the different plans that are available to you. There's like over 20,000 Medicare plans in this country, which seems crazy. Some of them do offer grocery benefits. Some of them offer other things. They can tell you how to get the most out of your benefits without compromising on your healthcare, which is really important. So always recommend calling them if that's something that you're interested in. Babu says Lasagna Love works for one a month, and that is true. You can get, according to their website, you can request one free meal a month through Lasagna Love. I know some people have said that they weren't able to get that many just because there weren't that many volunteers in their area to keep up with that demand. But if you live in an area that has a lot of volunteers, that may be an option that can help you. Fury says, check online at Mom's Meals. It works through Medicaid and Medicare. So that's another resource that may be able to help you. Yeah, Mama Linus is talking about Medicare Advantage plans that offer extra help. And again, I would refer to chapter for that because they can look at all the different plans and help you figure out which one is going to be able to help you the most in a comprehensive way instead of just looking at this like, oh no, I need groceries right now, but also like holistically all of the things. They are really good at looking at the big picture there. Let's see. Oh, this is cool. Francine says they have food at our library, at local Goodwill, even at the dental clinic. That's fantastic. I love that. I would love to know where you're at. If you want to email us some of that information, that would be really cool. Our email is team@lowincomerelief.com so that we can, just curious to know what kind of community is that put together because a lot of times we don't see that level of support when people need it. Yeah, Darlene says our food banks are running out of food. That is frighteningly common. But again, that health insurance, I'm glad that you were able to have that benefit because that will be really, really helpful. Okay, I don't know how to say your username, but asking what happened with Hawaii and COLA. So I don't know why this is, and I shouldn't be laughing. It seems ridiculous to me, so it makes me chuckle. But for the last 2 years, when they announce the COLA increases for EBT and everyone else gets their little boost, Hawaii gets axed. I don't know why. They just constantly keep dropping, not by a whole ton, but Hawaii just keeps dropping. And I don't know why. But we went over that in our video about the COLA. You can go check that out. We have the charts of all the changes in there. Yeah, so Fury says you can apply for extra help through the government. You don't need Medicare Advantage plan to apply. That's true. But like I said, there are like 20,000 plans out there. So there's a lot of different options. It gets really confusing. So chapter is pretty helpful. They'll tell you if you don't like, even if it's original Medicare or whatever's best for you. They're really good about that. Let's see. Ooh, yes. Happy Survival is talking about gleaning programs where you can get fruit or produce from local farms in your area. These are huge. I have seen so many amazing gleaning programs that can really help now. At least in the area where I live, we're kind of moving out of harvest season, so those options are a little bit more limited. But if you live in an area where you're still in like a harvest time, that could really help. Oh, yeah. Veronica brings up a good point here too. Like, what about the major retail stores who will lose all of our SNAP benefits? It's interesting that they're talking about how that would affect it. So, yeah, studies have shown how there are like whole communities where their economies revolve around the SNAP cycle. So, it is interesting that we're not hearing more from the retail stores that will be affected by this. And maybe that uproar will be able to facilitate some change. I don't know. Oh my goodness, Hansel. Thank you so much. That really helps. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That was very generous of you. You guys are awesome. May's asking, so can we deduct food for emotional support animals? If you are disabled or over the age of 60, you can use service animal food for the medical expense deduction, but they don't recognize just emotional support animals. They usually have to be trained to provide some sort of service. So, yeah. This is really great advice from Vandalay Industries talking about how multiple local churches offer food banks and different services. It really helps to know what's available in your neighborhood. If you call 211, they're usually really good about helping you figure out what your options are. I will confess I've never actually called the 211 number. I prefer to use their website because then I can get that information. Often because I'm looking in different places than where I normally live, and that's really hard to explain on the phone. Um, but if you wanna look at the 211 website or make that call, they may be able to help you figure out basically a strategy of where to go on what days to get help with food or other needs. Hopefully, you'll be in an area where there's multiple avenues of support there, because I know this is a rough time. Okay. Boost Mobile says, "Is it definite that we're not getting the food stamps?" No, it's not definite. It is basically they're saying that it's on hold until further notice, which they're saying the funds aren't available until the government shutdown is resolved. So it's not definite. If they get back to the bargaining table, the government reopens, there's a possibility that it won't be delayed at all. There's a possibility that it might just be slightly delayed. It's all going to depend on how things go with that government shutdown or if they issue some sort of additional guidance. I do find it encouraging that at the start of the shutdown, they're like, well, we're not going to announce the Social Security COLA until the shutdown's over because people won't be here to figure it out. And then it was just a couple of days ago, or maybe last week, but just recently they were like, you know what? No, no, no. We're going to announce the COLA. We're going to bring that team back. They're going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. So they already kind of backtracked on that. So maybe there's a chance that they'll change their mind about the November SNAP as well. But as of right now, what we know is that the USDA did send notice to the states telling them to essentially withhold processing that November deposit until they get further guidance. So that's where we're at. Yeah, there's a lot of local news outlets that are covering things like this. And like I said, there's a lot of misinformation out there right now as well. We're seeing a lot of AI channels and different things popping up in different places that you guys have been making us aware of through comments and emails that are giving conflicting information. On this channel, if you're new here to low income relief, we always look for original sources. My background is in journalism. I have another member of our team has a master's in journalism. We've got other people that we work with that are experts in their fields. We only share things that we can confirm are official. We try really hard not to speculate. I've been a little speculaty in this video, talking about the possibility of backlash causing change and things like that. But usually we try to stick to what is actually factual so that you guys know what to expect. Just be careful where you're getting your news because it's kind of scary out there. Let's see. Lisa's saying that the only benefits that would be lost are for kids who get summer EBT. So, that's not what the USDA said. The USDA said that they're stopping those November disbursements, but I do know that summer EBT expires, I believe it's 120 days after the deposit is made, and a lot of states were making those deposits as early as May. So if those Sunbucks or summer EBT benefits have not been spent, there is a chance that they are going to expire and disappear. So I've seen some headlines about that as well. Yes, Lisa is accurate. SNAP benefits on EBT cards expire after 274 days. The deadline is different for the summer EBT for some reason, um, but generally you have that 274 days. So let's see. Yeah. Oh, Karen and Rusty, thank you so much. That is so wonderful of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's wonderful. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Albert. This is so generous of you. I really appreciate that. So if work requirements are in place for SNAP, why are so many jobs being cut? It doesn't make sense. You're not wrong. It doesn't make any sense. And it's honestly like leveling with you. That is one of the scariest parts of this for me, because what they've done, in addition to instituting those work requirements, is make it significantly harder for states to get work waivers. So historically, if there was a lot of unemployment, if there weren't a lot of jobs available, the state could go to the federal government and be like, hey, this isn't really realistic right now. We need to like cut these guys some slack. And they could get a waiver, and then they wouldn't have to be as strict with those work requirements. And one of the first things that happened with this new administration is they announced that those waivers were going to be significantly harder to get. And I'm trying to find it. I have it up over here. Yeah. So basically, um, yeah. So I'm reading this straight from the USDA website from a post that was made October 3rd. And it's guidance that they're sending out to the states. It's a policy memo. And they said the statute as amended requires that areas have unemployment rates of over 10% to qualify for the time limit waivers. So now there's like this hard rule that's going to make it way, way harder for states to get those work waivers. And it's scary. Um, not to add more bad news to a video that was already bad news. I probably shouldn't have gone there, but yeah, that is a primary concern. The only um, good news, I guess, that I can tack on there is that it still counts if it's volunteer work or if it's job training or continuing education. So there are other options if work isn't necessarily available or an option. But I know that is a very slim comfort. It definitely doesn't fix the issue. Anyway, yeah, that's a soapbox I could stand on for quite some time, but, you're not wrong with that question. It's a very frustrating situation to be in. Alan points out retirees are exempt from work requirements because of receiving Social Security, and that is accurate. Um, let's see. Lots of you are having great advice about different ways to grow food and raise animals for food. The only reason I'm not highlighting those is because I don't know. There are weird things that can trigger stuff on the channel, so I'm kind of nervous to highlight one of those just because I don't know what it would do. But I think your advice is solid, so appreciate you sharing that. Dorothy's asking, will Social Security payments be affected? The answer to that is no. Social Security should be fine. In fact, we have a pretty big Social Security update coming out on Monday. So if you are subscribed to the channel, make sure you don't miss that because we've got a lot of good information coming out there. So Boost Mobile's asking, if they stop it in November and we get it in December, will they include the November stamps too? So theoretically, that is what I would expect to have happen. I would expect there to be retroactive pay. I can't guarantee that. I haven't seen any sort of official guidance on that, but to my understanding, that is what should happen, and I will definitely um, update you as more information becomes available on all of that. Yeah, a got change says Snap has no soaps or cleaning stuff. Snap is only for Food for your household's consumption. So no non-food items like soap or cleaning stuff. There are some weird loopholes around like gift baskets and things, which we go into in other videos, but generally, if it's not something that you as a human being can eat, then it's not something that they're going to cover. So, yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Those of you who are panicking and stuff, I'm so sorry. Um, really wish that I had better news or had some ability to fix this for you guys. I know that this is like catastrophic. All right. Asking if work requirements are still valid for people who are waiting for SSDI decisions. I haven't seen any specific guidance about that, but I would assume that if you are in the SSDI process, you probably have enough evidence available to you to make a case to the SNAP office that you should be exempt from those work requirements. It should, the same letters and evidence that you provided to the Social Security Administration, I would imagine you could hand off to the SNAP office, and they should take that into consideration, I would think. Let's see. Patricia's asking, what are we supposed to do for the holidays? I know that the holiday assistance programs are super competitive, so I'm not going to pretend like the list that I have is going to help everybody with everything. But we will be coming out with our annual roundup of where you can get a free Thanksgiving meal. And I would stay tuned for that. And then hopefully by Christmas, it won't be an issue. I can't even imagine what that would be like. Cornbread Man is saying, any news on the proposed SSI cuts? I haven't seen any updates since the last one I did. I have heard from people that have had recent cuts, and I'm assuming that that might be the cause, but I just don't know for sure. I will see if I can get an update on that as well, but it's really hard to get updates on things right now with the shutdown because they're just not updating government websites anymore, which is so frustrating. All of this is so frustrating. So you are absolutely correct. Seeds can be bought with SNAP. You can buy seeds and produce bearing plants. That was one of my favorite things I ever learned because you can actually buy like fruit trees and stuff like that, and like vegetable starts and stuff like that. You just need to be careful where you buy it because a lot of people take their EBT card to like Home Depot or Lowe's and then they come back and tell me that I was wrong. But stores can only process SNAP payments if they meet certain requirements, which they have to sell a certain amount of different food varieties or make at least the majority of their sales from food. Clearly, Home Depot and Lowe's don't do that, so you can't go there to buy your stuff. But stores like Costco or Walmart, they usually have a garden center. You can get seeds and produce bearing plants at those places with your SNAP benefits, which is fantastic. It's a great way to help maximize those benefits. All right, Tony is asking, can a doctor's statement keep SNAP? From what I have read, it sounds like if you have a doctor's statement clarifying why you're unable to work, that should help cover you from the work requirements. I think it's generally easier if you have like SSDI, Social Security Disability or something like that, because that's a little bit more concrete. Or it means you've gone through a lot of loopholes and the government has conclusively decided that you're too disabled to work, as opposed to having a doctor's letter. But the doctor's letter should work in a pinch, I think, based on what I've read. All right. Yeah. So Mama Lioness is talking about LIHEAP. We do know that LIHEAP is operational in several areas right now. So if you are in an area where LIHEAP is working, please go apply for that because that can really help as well. Okay, Bread and Butter has a really fun question about EBT households. So when you're living with, okay, USDA has a really fun way of defining who's in your household. So it's supposed to be everyone you live with and buy and prepare food with. So if you are living with them, but you are not actively sharing food with them in any way, then they would not count as part of your SNAP household and you wouldn't need to worry about their income. If you are sharing food with them, then you would have to count them. There is a caveat for that. If you are under the age of 22, generally you have to be lumped in if they're your parents. If they're not your parents, then it's a little bit different. But yeah, anyway, hopefully that clarifies. I know that makes a big difference for a lot of people. Fury says, check with the Salvation Army. They often give a dinner for the holidays. That's true. They are one of the best and most reliable sources for holiday help, both for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. So, let's see. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Kenneth. I really appreciate that. I definitely don't expect you guys um to donate to get your comments highlighted, but it does help support our team. So that's very generous of you. If you That's a hard question with eligibility because I don't know your unique situation and I don't work for the state, but going into 2026, we're seeing the income limits are increased a little bit. They always increase with the COLA a little bit. We know that those work requirements are going into effect. Those are really going to be the biggest change that people are going to face. But as long as you're able to continue through that, you should still continue to be good, I think, going forward. Um, Miss Green is saying, why didn't the news say anything about this? So they are starting to say things about this. I watched the news really carefully, and I actually got this from, it was just a couple of hours before we started the stream. I started seeing USA Today and other news outlets talking about this change. And that's when I dove in to start fact checking what was going on. Because at first I just assumed it was clickbait because we see clickbait like this all the time. But that's when I learned there actually was a USDA letter that was sent out and this change is actually happening. So you'll see more and more about it in the news over the next couple of days. I just tend to I tend to notice things that happen with Snap really fast just because of the way that I follow them. Yes. So Gina's talking about churches that have Christmas dinners and holiday dinners. We do our best to do a roundup of all of those on our website. You can always go to lowincomerelief.com and see all of the resources that we found. But we'll update all of those. We usually update the Thanksgiving one close to November 1st because that's when people start announcing those promotions. And then we usually update the Christmas one by mid-November, early December to make sure that you know where you can go for that help. See. Oh, thank you, bread and butter. Oh my gosh, you guys are so generous. I really appreciate that. Yes, and King Kong is right. I can't do captions on live streams, unfortunately, because neither the computer nor I know what I'm going to say until it comes out of my mouth. But as soon as we wrap up this live stream and YouTube has a chance to process it, you'll see those captions become available. So I know that that's a bit of a problem, and I do apologize for that. As far as the information that we covered at the beginning of the video, most of that was typed up on our slides. So hopefully you can go back and look at that if that's the information that you were looking for. Yeah. So ChatGPT and me is asking if you want to email me about doing YouTube. So those of you who have been here for a while have heard me talk about my other jobs. I actually teach courses on how to do YouTube as well. So yeah, anything you have questions about, feel free to shoot me over an email. You email team at lowincomerelief.com. That'll get you in touch with Stephanie, and then she can get your information over to me. So always happy to help people get started on YouTube because it's awesome. And yes, thank you, Deb, too. We definitely really appreciate everyone who's pitching in and helping. Things are moving so fast right now and everything is so crazy that we recently onboarded a couple of new people to help with research and stuff like that. So it's really helpful. We're trying to stay up on this, trying to get that information out to you guys as fast as we can, but it's it's a lot to keep up on right now, and I really do wish that information was more positive generally. Um, so let's see. Joe's asking, why does SNAP care if you're working so much? So this is all part of that one big beautiful bill that was passed earlier this year where they were putting the work requirements in. Lots of things are changing with work requirements on all of the programs, not just SNAP. In fact, I think tomorrow or sometime in the next couple of days, we're going to be talking about what's going on with TANF and cash benefits, because that's also there's changes coming there pretty quickly too. So, oh my goodness, I've reached the end of the chat. This is amazing. All right. I cannot believe we've been here for an hour and a half. I just adore you guys. I do need to get going. Got some other things I need to do today, but I really appreciate you. I hope that we were able to thoroughly answer your questions here today. We will be back tomorrow with hopefully better news, honestly. Really appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Free Cash. They have a great app that can help you make some extra money playing games, testing new apps, taking surveys, that sort of thing. You can see that link there